For generations, many American households had one thing in common: a well-stocked pantry. Long before online grocery deliveries, smart refrigerators, and endless choices at supermarkets, families relied on simple foods that could last for weeks, months, or even years. These were not always expensive products or trendy ingredients. In fact, many of them were ordinary foods that people often overlook today. But older generations knew something important. A good pantry was not just about having food. It was about being prepared, saving money, reducing waste, and making sure the family always had something nourishing to eat. Many of these pantry staples came from habits passed down through difficult times, from the Great Depression, wartime rationing, economic challenges, and years when people learned to use every ingredient wisely. Today, these foods are becoming popular again. Not because people want to return to the past, but because many of us are rediscovering the value of simple, practical choices. With rising food costs, busy lifestyles, and a growing interest in reducing waste, the old-fashioned pantry has a lot to teach us. So let's take a look at the foods older Americans always kept on hand and why these humble staples still deserve a place in modern kitchens. One of the most common pantry foods was dried beans. For many families, beans were considered a kitchen essential. They were affordable, filling, and incredibly versatile. A small bag of dried beans could become several different meals, depending on what ingredients were available. Older generations often cooked beans slowly, allowing flavors to develop over time. A simple pot of beans could be transformed into soups, stews, casseroles, side dishes, or even a hearty main meal. Beans were especially valuable because they provided long-lasting nutrition. Unlike fresh foods that could spoil quickly, dried beans could sit in the pantry for months when stored properly. Many families kept several varieties, including navy beans, kidney beans, pinto beans, and black beans. Each type had its own place in traditional recipes. A pot of beans with vegetables and seasonings could feed an entire family without spending much money. This was especially important during times when every dollar mattered. Today, beans remain one of the smartest pantry choices. They are inexpensive, easy to store, and can help create satisfying meals with simple ingredients already available at home. Another classic pantry item was rice. For decades, rice was a dependable food found in kitchens across America. It was the kind of ingredient people could always count on. Rice could stretch a meal further, making a small amount of meat or vegetables serve more people. A simple dinner could become more filling by adding a bowl of rice on the side. Older cooks understood the importance of having basic ingredients that could work with almost anything. Rice paired well with beans, vegetables, sauces, soups, and leftover ingredients. This made it especially useful for reducing food waste. Instead of throwing away small portions of leftovers, families often combined them with rice to create a completely new meal. White rice was common because it lasted a long time and was easy to prepare. Many households also stored other varieties depending on their preferences and traditions. Even today, rice remains one of the most practical pantry staples. It is affordable, adaptable, and useful when you need to prepare a meal quickly. Another food that older Americans rarely wanted to run out of was canned tomatoes. Canned tomatoes were like a little piece of summer stored in a can. Before modern grocery stores made fresh produce available year-round, preserving tomatoes allowed families to enjoy their flavor even during colder months. Many people canned tomatoes from their own gardens. They would spend late summer preparing jars to use throughout the year. A simple can of tomatoes could become the foundation for countless meals: pasta sauces, soups, chili, casseroles, and stews. Older generations understood that a good pantry ingredient was one that could change depending on the recipe. Canned tomatoes were valuable because they added flavor, moisture, and nutrition without requiring much preparation. Today, they are still one of the most useful ingredients to keep at home. When fresh ingredients are unavailable or when you need a quick dinner idea, canned tomatoes can turn basic foods into something comforting and delicious. Another pantry favorite was oats. Many older Americans began their mornings with oatmeal because it was inexpensive, satisfying, and easy to prepare. Oats were not considered a luxury food. They were a practical breakfast that could keep people full through the morning. Families often purchased large containers of oats because they stored well and could be prepared in many ways. A simple bowl of oatmeal could be made sweeter with fruit, honey, cinnamon, or brown sugar. It could also become part of baked goods like cookies, breads, and homemade bars. Oats were also popular because they represented the idea of making the most out of simple ingredients. A basic food could become something special with just a few additions. Today, oats continue to be a pantry favorite because they fit perfectly into modern lifestyles. They are quick, affordable, and useful far beyond breakfast. Another item that appeared in many older kitchens was flour. A bag of flour represented possibility. It meant homemade bread, biscuits, pancakes, pies, and countless family recipes. For many households, baking was not just about making food. It was a way to bring people together. Before convenience foods became common, families often prepared more meals from scratch. Having flour in the pantry meant they could make something whenever they needed it. During challenging financial periods, homemade baked goods were a way to save money, while still creating comforting meals. A simple combination of flour, water, yeast, and a few basic ingredients could create bread that lasted several days and helped feed the family. Even today, flour remains one of the most useful pantry staples. It gives people the ability to create meals at home instead of depending entirely on packaged foods. Another forgotten pantry hero was powdered milk. Many younger generations may not think about powdered milk today, but older households often kept it available because it lasted much longer than fresh milk. It was especially useful in rural areas, during emergencies, or whenever trips to the grocery store were less frequent. Powdered milk could be used for cooking, baking, making drinks, and preparing recipes that required milk. Its long shelf life made it a reliable backup food. Families valued ingredients that could wait patiently in the pantry until they were needed. This idea of keeping practical backup foods is something many modern households are beginning to appreciate again. Another pantry staple that many older Americans considered essential was peanut butter. For generations, peanut butter was a reliable food that families could depend on. It was affordable, easy to store, and required no complicated preparation. A jar of peanut butter could quickly become breakfast, a snack, or part of a simple meal. Spread on bread, combined with crackers, added to oatmeal, or used in baking, it was one of those ingredients that could solve a problem when there was little time or few options available. Many families kept peanut butter because it was filling and convenient. Children often grew up with peanut butter sandwiches as a simple lunch that was inexpensive but satisfying. Older generations also appreciated foods that could last. A sealed jar could stay in the pantry for a long time, making it a dependable choice during busy weeks or unexpected situations. Today, peanut butter remains popular for the same reasons. It is practical, versatile, and can turn a few basic ingredients into a quick meal. Another food commonly found in traditional pantries was pasta. Boxes of pasta were a household favorite because they were inexpensive, easy to prepare, and could be combined with almost anything. Older cooks knew that a simple box of pasta could become many different dishes. It could be served with tomato sauce, mixed with vegetables, added to soups, or combined with leftover ingredients to create a completely new meal. Pasta was especially valuable because it allowed families to prepare satisfying dinners without spending a lot of money. A small amount of sauce and a box of pasta could feed several people. This ability to stretch ingredients was an important skill in many older households. Even today, pasta remains one of the most useful foods to keep in the pantry. It provides an easy solution when you need dinner quickly and can adapt to almost any flavor or cooking style. Another traditional pantry item was canned fish. Foods like canned tuna, salmon, and sardines were often stored because they provided a convenient source of protein without needing refrigeration. Before modern shopping habits became common, families appreciated foods that could stay ready until needed. Canned fish could become sandwiches, salads, casseroles, pasta dishes, or simple meals, served with crackers and vegetables. Many older recipes were created around making a small amount of food go further. A can of tuna combined with pasta or vegetables could create a meal for the whole family. Today, canned fish continues to be useful because it offers convenience and long shelf life. It is a reminder that practical foods do not have to be complicated. Another important pantry item was canned soup. For many families, canned soup represented comfort and convenience. A can of soup could be a quick lunch, an easy dinner, or an ingredient in another recipe. Older generations often used canned soups as a base for casseroles and other homemade dishes. Cream soups, especially, became popular ingredients in many classic recipes. They added flavor and texture without requiring many additional ingredients. While some modern cooks prefer making everything from scratch, canned soup still has a place in the kitchen because it provides an easy option when time is limited. Older Americans also understood the importance of keeping basic seasonings in the pantry. Salt, pepper, sugar, vinegar, and spices were not considered optional. They were the ingredients that helped transform simple foods into flavorful meals. A family might have only a few basic ingredients available, but the right seasonings could make those ingredients taste completely different. For example, a simple pot of beans could become a comforting meal with the addition of herbs and spices. Plain vegetables could become more appealing with the right seasoning. This was one of the biggest lessons from older generations. Good cooking does not always require expensive ingredients. Often, it requires knowing how to bring out the best in simple foods. Another item many households kept was honey. Honey was valued because it could last a very long time when stored properly. It was used not only as a sweetener but also in baking, drinks, and traditional home recipes. Many families preferred keeping natural ingredients available instead of relying only on processed foods. A spoonful of honey could sweeten tea, add flavor to oatmeal, or become part of homemade sauces and baked goods. Today, honey remains popular because it combines tradition with versatility. Another pantry essential was potatoes stored in a cool place. While potatoes are not always considered a typical pantry item, older generations often kept them in storage areas because they were inexpensive, filling, and useful in countless recipes. Potatoes could become soups, mashed potatoes, baked dishes, breakfast meals, or side dishes. They were especially valuable because they helped families create satisfying meals from simple ingredients. Many older households understood the importance of foods that provided comfort and flexibility. Potatoes represented exactly that. Even now, potatoes remain one of the most practical foods available. They are affordable, adaptable, and capable of becoming hundreds of different dishes. One of the biggest lessons from these traditional pantry foods is that older generations focused on usefulness rather than trends. They did not fill their kitchens with products they might never use. They chose ingredients that served many purposes. A good pantry was built around flexibility. A bag of rice could become dinner. A can of tomatoes could become sauce. A handful of beans could become a hearty meal. A simple ingredient could become something completely different with a little creativity. This approach helped families save money and reduce waste. Today, many people are returning to these ideas. With grocery prices increasing and more attention being given to sustainability, the old-fashioned pantry is becoming relevant again. Keeping basic foods at home can make everyday cooking easier. It can also reduce the temptation to order expensive takeout or waste money on unnecessary purchases. The wisdom of older generations was not about having a huge supply of food. It was about having the right foods. A practical pantry gives you options. It helps you handle unexpected situations, prepare meals quickly, and make better use of what you already have. Many of these traditional foods are still valuable because they represent something simple: independence in the kitchen. They remind us that delicious meals do not always require complicated recipes, expensive ingredients, or modern technology. Sometimes, the best solutions are the ones that have been trusted for generations. The next time you organize your pantry, consider looking beyond trendy products and convenience foods. Think about the ingredients that families relied on for decades: beans, rice, oats, pasta, canned tomatoes, flour, peanut butter, simple seasonings. These foods may seem ordinary, but their value comes from their reliability. They have helped families through good times and difficult times. They have filled countless dinner tables and created memories shared between generations. And perhaps that is why these pantry staples still matter today. Because the best foods are not always the newest ones. Sometimes, they are the ones that have already proven they belong. The foods that stayed in family kitchens for generations did so for a reason. They were affordable, practical, adaptable, and dependable. And those are qualities that never go out of style. So take a look at your own pantry. You might discover that some of the simplest foods are also some of the most useful. Because a well-prepared kitchen is not about having everything. It is about knowing how to make the most of what you have. There is something special about the way older generations approached food. They saw ingredients differently. A simple bag of flour was not just flour. It was the possibility of fresh bread on the table. A jar of beans was not just a cheap ingredient. It was the beginning of a warm, comforting meal shared with family. Many of the foods kept in traditional American pantries were chosen because they gave people freedom. They allowed families to cook even when money was limited, time was short, or fresh ingredients were unavailable. This mindset is becoming valuable again today. Modern kitchens often have more choices than ever before, but having more options does not always mean cooking becomes easier. Sometimes, a small collection of reliable ingredients can be more useful than shelves filled with products that are rarely used. Older Americans often followed a simple rule: keep foods that can become many different meals. That idea alone can completely change the way we think about grocery shopping. Instead of buying ingredients for only one specific recipe, a practical pantry focuses on flexibility. A can of tomatoes can become pasta sauce, soup, chili, or a base for a casserole. A bag of rice can become a side dish, a main meal, a breakfast recipe, or a way to use leftovers. A container of oats can become breakfast, baked goods, or a homemade snack. This ability to transform basic ingredients was one of the greatest skills passed down through generations. Another important lesson from older kitchens was avoiding unnecessary waste. Before food waste became a major concern, many families naturally practiced habits that helped them use almost everything. Leftover vegetables became soup. Stale bread became toast, breadcrumbs, or casserole toppings. Small portions of meat were added to larger dishes to create complete meals. Nothing was considered useless. This way of thinking was not only economical. It was creative. Families learned to look at what they had and ask, how can we make this work? That question is still powerful today. Many people spend extra money because they do not have basic ingredients available when they need them. Without pantry staples, a small problem can turn into an expensive grocery trip or a last-minute restaurant order. A prepared pantry creates options. It gives you the ability to make something satisfying without starting from nothing. Another reason these traditional foods remain important is their connection to family memories. Food is often more than nutrition. It carries stories. A recipe written on an old piece of paper. A soup prepared the same way for decades. A family breakfast that everyone remembers. Many of these pantry foods were part of those moments. They appeared at holiday gatherings, Sunday dinners, and everyday meals around the kitchen table. Simple ingredients often created the strongest memories because they were connected to people, not perfection. Today, many families are rediscovering the joy of cooking with basic ingredients. There is a growing interest in homemade meals, traditional recipes, and learning skills that previous generations considered normal. Making bread at home, preparing soup from scratch, or cooking dried beans may seem old-fashioned, but these activities can bring a sense of comfort and satisfaction. They remind us that cooking does not have to be complicated. A meal made with simple ingredients can still be meaningful. Another advantage of these classic pantry foods is that they help people prepare for unexpected situations. Life does not always follow a perfect schedule. There may be a busy week, a missed grocery trip, bad weather, or simply a day when cooking needs to be quick. Having reliable foods at home provides peace of mind. A stocked pantry does not mean storing extreme amounts of food. It means having enough practical ingredients to handle everyday challenges. Older generations understood preparation because they experienced times when convenience was not always available. They knew the value of being ready. This is one reason their habits are worth remembering. The goal is not to copy the past completely. Modern kitchens have many helpful tools and conveniences that make cooking easier. The goal is to combine the best ideas from the past with the advantages of today. Keep useful foods. Choose ingredients that serve multiple purposes. Learn a few simple recipes. Reduce waste. Make the most of what you already have. These habits can save money and make daily life easier. A pantry filled with trusted basics is like a small investment in your future meals. It gives you creativity when you need it. It helps during busy days. And it connects you with cooking traditions that have lasted for generations. The foods older Americans kept in their pantries were not chosen because they were fashionable. They were chosen because they worked. They were dependable when families needed them most. And that is exactly why they still matter today. So the next time you walk through the grocery store, remember that some of the most valuable foods may not be the newest products on the shelves. They may be the simple ingredients that have been trusted for decades. Because sometimes, the smartest choices in the kitchen are the ones that have already stood the test of time. A strong pantry is not built around expensive items. It is built around knowledge. Knowledge of what lasts. Knowledge of what can be created. And knowledge that with a few simple ingredients, you can always make something good. These old-fashioned pantry staples are more than just food. They are reminders of resourcefulness, creativity, and the importance of making the most of what we have. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson older generations left behind. A home does not need a perfect kitchen to create wonderful meals. It only needs thoughtful choices, simple ingredients, and someone willing to use them.